And we are going to go to our third topic of today. And we stay a little bit in the same overall benefits, well-being theme, because this is around employee well-being. And there is Forbes again. According to Forbes, poor mental health is skyrocketing, with 70%, that is 70, of the C-suite reportedly considering quitting their jobs to search for a job that better supports their mental health and well-being. A recent survey from Slack found that burnout is on the rise globally, especially in the US, with 43% of managers saying they were burned out, more than any other worker group. Organizations have increasingly invested in mental health initiatives for their employees. People can take a mental health day, for instance, speak to an online or offline mental health professional, take time during their day to breathe or meditate, and there are many other valuable mental health efforts being made. None of these initiatives have any use, however, if people don't want to admit that they are having a mental issue in the first place. In the case of burnout, for example, it is well known that especially men don't want to admit that they are burned out due to, quote unquote, the rules of manhood and to shame, for example. Other reasons that people don't want to talk about their mental health at work are fear of losing their job or damaging relationships or risking that future employers learn about their illness and judge them. And this brings me to our final statement for today. Mental health initiatives are a waste of time and money as long as people don't want to admit to themselves that they need help. All right, I will start again with you, Carla, this time.
Oh, okay.
Do you agree or do you disagree?
I agree, and I think that the initiatives can be supported, but I'm just wondering if there's a need to run better engagement surveys, better check-ins with employees. So the key of the problem right now, what's on the news this month essentially, is exactly that stress over the managers that you have mentioned, Neely. It's all over the news. Managers are at breaking point. If there's downsizing, if 10% of the company's laid off, often that work has to be taken on by the manager. What does that mean? It means he has no time to manage anyone. So managing has become a hands-off task when it should have been evolving towards a kind of coaching, mentoring role. To start with, that person should have the responsibility to upscale to make sure that the team is growing, meeting results. And by the way, how are you doing? Which is one of the sentences that really makes a difference in that relationship with employee. How are you doing? And that will open up the speech and that discussion if there's that intimacy. That intimacy is not there today. So with HR technology, you can serve part of the purpose by running engagement surveys, collecting some data. You have sentiment surveys that are really important right now that can be and should be deployed, and they're not being deployed enough, along then with benefits that say, right, based on this, would you like this service? Based on this, would you want some time off as benefit? I don't see that happening enough. It's like we're all running after something in this moment and thinking that if we deploy some emerging technologies like AI, it will magically recommend the right training, magically find us the right career path. And if you don't excel at it, it's your fault. So yeah, that's my view.
Thank you, Carla. Before I'm going to say something to that, Lothar, do you agree with this statement that mental health initiatives are a waste of time and money as long as people don't admit to themselves that they have a mental health issue? Do you agree or do you not agree with that statement?
Well, I do not agree. I think that it's very important that there's a basic offering in terms of being able to have that mental support. At least you're lowering the barrier.
Yeah.
But I must also agree that we must not oversee that it can sometimes give a false security in terms of, we have the psychologist available. Like if you have an issue, go there. Whilst what Carla says is definitely a valid point. Our managers don't have time or are not able to communicate with the team. And there's where the issue lies, the huge stress levels. On the other hand, I do believe that if we talk, for example, about psychologists, that the underutilization should not be the reason why it's thrown away. Because once again, the difference of only 1% of the workforce using it can make a huge difference. And it's tough to talk about the workplace without talking about people's lives. Exactly like we're talking with the benefits aspect, it's to support our life. And there are a lot of issues happening at home as well, where people cannot bear the inflation or the stress. And
Yeah.
if that's the case and you don't have time left at home, it could be a long way to get mental support. And if your company is there for you, I would be more loyal and I'd use it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a valid point as well. I hear valid points from both of you here, because I think the last one thing that you said, Lothar, is a good one. That, yeah, indeed, if you're at home also having a lot of stress because perhaps you're having children, perhaps your partner also is under a lot of stress on at work, because yes, there are some downsizes and they have been going on for quite a while as well. And I think they will continue if we are realistically. So yes, then obviously the step to actually seek help for a mental issue that you might have is even bigger, and the company offering can definitely be an outcome in that case. However, and that's something that Carla was mentioning, it made me think, is that if I'm a manager and I have to let people go, and that gives me a lot of stress, and I'm already stressed, but I have to let these people go, how willing am I then going to be to go to somebody in the company saying that I'm having a mental health issue because I just had to let all these people go? So I'm probably also worried that if I'm now going to say that I'm burnout, that they will also let me go at some point, even if though legally I know they're not allowed. But so what are your thoughts on this? Carla, I'm going to start with you.
Well, that's such a tough one. Such a tough one. I recently sat with a friend that works for a Big Four. She had made an offer for a new person. Her team is under such stress and pressure, and they were going to hire this person. Everything was ready. And it was the typical scenario we're seeing in this current market. The offer was pulled out at the last minute, and the person from the Friday to the Monday did not start. They had already resigned from their job. So basically, this friend came over for coffee and said, I don't know what to do. I am working 14 hours a day. She's got 5 children on top.
So,
of course, some are at college, but it's still a Brady Bunch, and it's still a lot of responsibility. And she says, I just don't find the time to breathe. I'm putting on weight. I am tired. I don't have time for myself. My relationship is suffering from this, and I just don't know how to go about it, because if I discuss this internally, the answer is we just need to get by this moment. There's no budget to hire, but the work is not reducing. So I think, again, back to strategy and where we're heading, I think we need to leave panic mode as soon as possible. Something has to change. Do we have to get to breaking point for things to change? Do we actually have to lose the key people to start making that change? Unfortunately, that's what might happen if we don't open up to doing things properly, because it is possible. There are companies out there that are thriving and they're still hiring. Why can't we all follow that model?
yeah, good one again. Lothar, did you want to add something?
Yeah. First of all, I think that mental health support should be mainly external and not internal, and anonymous. Removing already the stigma that could be put upon someone, because as a leader of a company, you need to be the strong one. You need to show confidence. You need to at least pretend that you know where you're going at. And okay, it's good to show your vulnerability from time to time, but still, I like to leave my problems from home at home or with a psychologist, etc. So let's split these two things up. And then secondly, internally is, okay, that's the big exercise, where either you need to have a big, indeed, strategy exercise to really solve the problem and get out of panic mode, like Carla said. And secondly, and this is also an exercise that takes a lot of time, but is reducing the stigma through programs, through workshops, through keynotes, where it's okay to maybe not feel good once in a while, and where colleagues are able to share. I love the thing where in the beginning of a meeting, you have a check-in, and at the end, a check-out. And it's super simple, but it's just telling like, okay, I did not have a lot of sleep tonight, so I might react a bit differently today in this meeting. And everyone just takes 30 seconds. It doesn't take up much time, but it places people at the right point, where after the meeting, it could be like, I'm glad that I shared it, and I'm glad that you all were a bit kinder than maybe usual, and I feel more energized. And those are small things that leadership can install to really break those barriers of always being brave and always pretend like everything's going great, while on the inside, maybe things are crumbling a bit. So,
Yeah. Carla, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that you have an interesting point there around leadership, and I'm not sure if I align fully with it, or if I misunderstood the point. But I have a story with the CEO of the last software company I worked for. I hadn't seen him in a year. We met him at the company event, and I said, "How are the kids?" And in that moment, he goes, "I don't know. I haven't seen them in 3 weeks. I'm on global company events. I've been on the road for 3 weeks, and I'm burned out." That moment, I loved him more than ever because I felt he was human. He was like me. He had the same problems.
Yeah.
And there was no time to sit down and have that conversation and take fully, enjoyment of the benefits. That said, it makes me also think, and that's probably something that you work with also, but coaching and executive management are key right now. And I don't think it's as valued as could be as a benefit, because we are at a point that everyone is overwhelmed with something. Why? Because we're trying to maintain the current boat, and we're trying to move to the next airplane that is coming, which is AI. And no one knows how that looks or how it works. So we need individuals that help companies prioritize. The check-in monthly, weekly cannot be just about project budget and how are you doing with the delivery of this or that or the other. It's about, how are you doing at the end of the call, at least. And I think that's what's missing from what I hear, the people that I talk to. There's just, we can't be machines. That's what AI will do. So either you put already AI in place to take away my admin work so that I focus on strategic and I go back to being a person, or you make time for me to enjoy my benefits so that I'm sure that I'm going to stay with the company.
Yeah, I had the same thing when Lothar mentioned, like, okay, I'm the leader of the company, and I have to be strong, and I have to show that I know the way, and et cetera, et cetera. And initially I thought, well, no, because they also need to show that they're human. And yes, that is the case. But at the same time, let's be honest as well. I think if a leader is going to say, yeah, I'm actually burned out, guys. I am totally, no, but of course they can say, they can say it a little bit differently, right? But like, okay, I'm totally burned out. I cannot do it anymore. What am I going to think as an employee working in that company already in these times, right? I'm going to be thinking, oh my God, should I look for another job? Because if the boss is actually losing it, then, oh my God, what is going to happen to us? So I think that is a real thing to take into account, because yes, I also agree with you, Carla, that we want to see leaders who are human. Absolutely. But I think this is a fine line, and that made me think about something else. And this is one of my favorite topics, because I'm all about, like, we all need to take responsibility more ourselves, because what we're doing a lot in the world of work as well, we've been putting so much responsibility on, for instance, HR. Okay, well-being, HR, think of a program for our employees. Engagement, HR, think of a way that we can get our employees more engaged. But we ourselves, we have a really big responsibility there as well. If I'm not engaged at work, then I should ask myself questions as like, okay, why am I not enjoying my job? What is it exactly? Can I pinpoint what is not okay? And then I can talk about that with my manager or with HR. And is it not the same case with this? If I know I'm struggling mentally, right? Should I then not first have the courage and take my responsibility to talk about that first to myself, say that, okay, Nelly, actually you're having an issue. You're either burned out or you're mentally completely drained, whatever, but you're having an issue. Isn't that my responsibility first? And then I can actually go to, if I have the courage to do that, go to my manager. And then, of course, the company has hopefully some great initiatives in place. And then I agree with Lothar as well. Yes, they should mostly be outside of the company and anonymous. I totally agree with that. But isn't there also part in every single one of us that needs to change, so that if my leader at some point has the courage to say that he or she is struggling, I'm not getting afraid, I'm not judging the person for having a mental health issue? Isn't that something that is in all of us as well? So last thing before we wrap up, what are your thoughts on that? Carla first.
Well, me first again.
Okay, no, let's do Lothar first. Lothar.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So I think we talk a lot about resilience at work, and I think resilience is important, but I've also read some important contributions around we can't be pushing for resilience when people are already at their limit. I think managers and leaders coming through and saying, yes, I've also reached burnout almost. This is what I've done. I think that's important, setting that example. I think being vulnerable, because look, if there's an environment where everyone is overwhelmed, but there's one person that is still smiling, looking good, you would say that person is really good at managing their work and their well-being. Likely you're looking at a narcissist, if I'm honest. It means that person is probably not delivering. If the rest is all stressed and working hard, it's not because they're dumb or they're not efficient. It's because someone is not doing their bit and pushing on others. That type of imbalance, we haven't been good in terms of organizational effectiveness in resolving. That is part of the toxicity we're seeing in the workplaces that are reported by Gallup, are reported also by, I don't want to lie to you, Insights 222 pulled also a report on this. This is one of the major issues. So add to that a financial crisis, work environments that are becoming toxic, because the ones that are resisting, that are not leaving, are the ones that manage up very well and don't really deliver the work. They delegate and they overload the ones that are already struggling. So I think you're right. Wellness begins with yourself. You're responsible for it. But the problem is when the company, the job, you spend more time on the job than you do with your family. If that starts disturbing your well-being, then the first thing you're going to think is, I'm leaving. Mm-hmm. And in fact, the biggest issue you have right now with hiring in, more junior positions is the fact that folks saw their parents throughout the last 20 years struggle with work, never be present, and say, that's not what I want. I don't want to go into an office. I don't want to work 9 to 5. I don't want to have to wait for my holiday and my bonus. I'm going to set up an e-commerce or something, or a YouTube channel or an Instagram account and become an influencer. And many of them have skipped university because they're making $10,000, dollars a month.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think those are the things we need to start thinking about in terms of what is, wellness at work. How much does the company have to contribute? Yes, it's down to the individual, but the fact is that if you have no work and you have money to live, your wellness is always great, right? But if you go to work and you're stressed and someone is bullying you, it's not just your responsibility.
Yeah. Valid point again, Lothar.
I think it once again comes down to between life and work. These two are so separate topics that we always talk about, but indeed they're one. And as an individual, you grow, so you need some coaching around you to sometimes realize where you need to end up or how you need to tackle the situation. So I genuinely believe that as a company or an organization, you need to set up a system, and a system to ensure the well-being in every aspect of the employees. And it should not be your main focus. Give it to the experts. There are so many organizations and software and coaches working on these topics that you just need to realize, let my competitive advantage be the product and the service that I'm offering. And the bare minimum should be that I care for the well-being of my colleagues. So, and there are stronger people that will realize it and talk to their managers, but I would be someone that would not that easily communicate it to the organization and maybe take my own decision in terms of leaving and or looking for a better place whilst in a nice environment. That should not always need to be the case.
Also, some good points in there as well. Carla, is there anything you want to say?
I like the concept of a system, Lothar. I really do. Because it was actually crossing my mind that if you have that system in place of, this is how we define a positive employee journey. This is how we see people at work at our company, according to our culture, in order to meet our objectives. Then you can easily triage also the ones that don't adapt. Okay. And it's easier for people to know if the company is for them. It's easier for the company to know if they should stay. But that system in itself, I mean, a bit like everything, if you want to become a competition, athlete, you have to have a system, right? Mm-hmm. And that's often what's lacking also at work that generates the stress, the not knowing exactly what is your journey. So well spotted. I like that.
Mm. And I think that with that, we have a beautiful ending to our third debate as well, Carla and Lothar. So I want to thank you very, very, very much. I thoroughly enjoyed this moment with you and the ideas and the different viewpoints. So thank you very much, both of you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of HR Debatable. If you like this episode, don't forget to share it with colleagues, with friends, with family, even if you like. And see you very soon again for a new episode. Thank you and goodbye.